So, guys, I want to talk about AEW, and I think that we should all be a little concerned about the Wembley Stadium show that's going to happen this year. And one of my big cautions is that, like last year, like 2 years ago when they had that the second time, they announced the Wembley Stadium tickets actually in December. And I just have a premonition that what they're going to try to do is do the O2. But I think what WWE is going to try to do is they're going to like I think what's going to happen is that maybe they're going to try to go from Wembley Stadium to the O2, and then maybe WWE is going to get the O2 and be like, okay, now you got the Wembley Stadium show, and therefore we're going to do another show your weekend and just try to take you out that way. Like I have like this premonition that that's what's going to happen, really. But it's kind of like what I've said many times with AEW. That I think one of the big problems with AEW is that it's very disorganized and they're not really good at getting the full potential out of their stars. And I actually think in professional wrestling, the best revolution that they can have is the writer's revolution, really, which means you hire me, you hire, maybe off the Mike Sport Networks, you probably hire OTRS Central and a few other people to help out with the writing room. And I think that that's kind of what's been hurting a lot of professional wrestling because a lot of it's very repetitive and sometimes, you have people like Tony Khan, and they said something like, he's usually on his yacht by himself writing professional wrestling. And with AEW, there's a lot of repeat stuff. There's a lot of repeat tag team matches or multi tag team matches, or you're gonna have Mark Briscoe versus Kyle Fletcher Part 7 or something like that. So there's just like a lot of repeat stuff, really. And I've kind of broke it down of what they need to do, really. I think with MJF, they really, really need to make him a mega heel, like Randy Orton or Vince McMahon level. And I've said this, like you have him face Bandito, you have him get a bunch of ICE agents to beat the shit out of Bandito, and then you set up Brody King versus MJF at Revolution in California. Like I think like honestly that would hit the cultural zeitgeist. That would hit like what's going on in the news. And then you can set up Bandito versus MJF at Arena Mexico for the ROH Championship. See that writes itself really. You have Anthony Bowens versus Ricochet. This is like a gay wrestler who wants to win his first singles title, and they have not had an openly gay wrestler win a singles title. That could be something really, or you could have Nyla Rose. Like Nyla Rose has a really big personality. Well, Nyla Rose joined the Hurt Syndicate. You have so many trios AW teams. Like, why isn't Shane Taylor Promotions, Dalton Castle, and the Outrunners, the Bang Bang Gang, and a few other people feuding with the Ops over the trios titles? Why don't you have the Young Bucks and Jack Perry go after the trios titles since they're technically together now? Why don't you have the Don Callis family go after the tag team titles? And why don't you have the Don Callis family go after the trios titles? You know, like Okada and Takeshita. Like are they just gonna like be like two passive aggressive bitches, or are they actually going to start, just like really hating each other? With Ricochet, he's wrestled in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Why couldn't he be on the New Japan Pro Wrestling card, on Wrestle Kingdom 20 card, and then he could actually, start fighting local wrestlers. You have your AEW women's division, which is kind of a mess, really. You can do Tekla versus Statlander. You can have Nyla Rose as part of the Hurt Syndicate versus Statlander. You could do, like, where the hell is Ruby Soho? Like, there's so many, like, women that you can use on that roster. I think they're going to save it for Mercedes as a babyface going after, going after, the singles time. I might going after like the women's championship. I think Tony Storm and Mina, like I think they're gonna just maybe do something with Orange Cassidy, maybe like a live sex angle or whatever, really. But it seems like repetitive directions. Mark Briscoe. I've always said this about them. Why the hell is Mark Briscoe speaking? Why the hell is he speaking in backstage segments? Shouldn't he be in the ring? Shouldn't he be doing like conversations with people, because he actually can talk on the microphone. It's actually kind of charismatic. You look at people like Bobby Lashley, Adam Copeland, Christian Cage, and many are people who are either injured or they have other projects, or Samoa Joe's filming Twisted Metal. Like you have so many wrestlers that can be there, can move merch, and they're not there really. So, or what are we going to do with the heavyweight championship picture? Is it going to be MJF versus Will Ospreay, Adam Page, Swerve Strickland, Samoa Joe at separate pay per views? Because while that will be cool, it's kind of like a bit of a repeat because they had a fatal 4-way. So I really think that AEW has a lot of like really questionable directions. You have people like Kyle Fletcher, Bandito, Anthony Bowens, Max Caster, Ace Austin, and a few other ones on the roster, Commander, a few other rosters that have some that need a lot of work to become bigger and better stars. And are you going to put in that work? And other things like that. You have Claudio and Pac, who I feel are very underrated. You have John Moxley, who's now a babyface, but the Death Rider thing has been going on for a long time. Are you going to create a dynamic where either Claudio or Pac takes over the group, really? And then they feud with him, and then they say, hey, you know what? Part of like being in charge of this new group, this new Death Rider thing, is that we go after the biggest title in the company, really. Like we want to be like the top heels need to go after the top title, even if it's heel versus heel, or even if you have Don Callis fan, where they say like, hey, maybe Kyle Fletcher, Takeshita, Okada, like one of them should go after should go after like the heavyweight title, really. So I really think that like there's a lot of things that they can do to just have very interesting dynamics. There's a lot of things that they can do to make every division strong. But I really just think they just don't really utilize it. And it's kind of like really unfortunate. Like I really think the Wembley Stadium show is probably going to be another disaster. And like I said, I really just have a really strong hunch that they're going to try to put in the O2. And then as a good counterattack, the WWE is going to say, hey, you know what, we're going to actually book the O2. So therefore you're stuck with Wembley Stadium and you're not going to draw a lot of people. And that's going to be like, a big hit against your company or something like that. So I hope AEW can get it together, really, but I'm very concerned about the Wembley Stadium show this year.